that there's no there's no selection based on sex or based on status. That refers to the crisis or someone who can be affected by it. So the title is an echo of the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds from the song. And I think quite a lot of this in the title, quite a lot of what I wanted to talk about. It's about the absurd position in some ways, the position of us that's been turned upside down. For women, it's quite, I think it's quite common. We kind of understand how it is to be this unprivileged position. Is quite familiar to us, but then suddenly we can see everybody could be affected by it. So so mainly when I was creating it, I was thinking of that, of this upside down situation, and which for some is normal. So yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking. I also made it on instead of using canvas for which I tend to use. I use a knitted surface. So it's also to highlight this homemadeness, being, you know, going back to something that you can make with your hands, craft, something very feminine as well, something that's got very strong associations with something what women do or being, you know, thought of doing, like so funnily enough, this is why I quite like it. I started this series of painting based on knits before, and I made a few Sheroes, which I didn't call Sheroes, but there was they were like female versions of some icons or heroes that we know from pop culture. So instead of a Zorro, we have a Zora. And and I do know all about the Spanish association of the word, and we kind of worked on that as well. But what I wanted to say, the actual knits are being made by my male friend. So this is why we quite like this, because normally everybody thought, oh, knits, that's probably someone what women do, and it's actually my friend Juan who did the knits, and I'm doing the painting. So we quite like that collaboration. Yes.
That's great. That's great. You mentioned something that is very interesting about being an artist and being locked down. I think many of the artworks that have been presented, or have been, like many of the submissions that we received, they've been artworks that have been done during lockdown with limited materials, with limited tools, in a different space. And I think it's very interesting. It's very unique, the artworks that they have been created during these times. And as well, I think is quite important to register all these creative process. I think they are very interesting, as you were saying. Another thing that is very interesting that you mentioned is the crafts in, you know, like related to women, and how these crafts, they've been always undervalued. And how women artists, they keep working with them just to give them the position and the value that they deserve. I think this is key in our history of arts, and I'm very happy that you mentioned this. Any case, in any ways, you can visit the website on your own time, at your own pace. And I'm gonna go to the next theme, violence against women and girls. Okay, fine. And I guess we don't I mean, we don't need to talk, like, I don't need to say why this is one of our themes, violence against women and girls. I think it's quite important to give visibility to the situation that women and girls have been put under the lockdown, and how much violence is been going on in the domestic spaces. Just here some details, some statistics about domestic violence that rise by 24%. There've been over 4,000 arrests, and there've been an increase of 25% of referrals, and then 41% of traffic to websites in women's organizations. I know that Susanna is with us. Susanna, hello. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, hello. How are you?
Hello, Susanna. Susanna made this monologue. She's an actress, and she made this monologue that I would like to play, if you don't mind.
Yep,
I'm not going to play the whole thing, but yeah, I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to share this so we can listen. Okay.
Stay home. Stay home and save lives. Protect the NHS. Save lives. But who protects you? Locked in, suffocating in the hands of whom you once loved. Still love. In silence, more terrified of what's inside your home than what lies outside. After all, the outside enemy is invisible, silent. They call it the silent killer, and if it catches you, you can't breathe. But that doesn't really matter to you. You're already struggling for breath. The lockdown took away the little freedom you had, the few moments of peace that you could get by going to work. Sometimes you escape to the shops. The sun in your skin and the fresh morning air remind you that you still have lungs, and you inhale deeply. And for a second, the tightness in your chest disappears and you can breathe again. There is a plastic screen protecting the cashier. Her eyes smile at you, and that warms your heart. For a moment. Soon, you're back in your personal prison, peeling carrots, fearing the moment he opens the fridge to discover that you didn't buy his favorite beer. It's not your fault. The supermarket didn't have any stock. But he blames you.
Hello.
Yeah, now, yeah.
Okay. Hello, Susanna. Well, this video represents a little bit the situation that many women can find themselves these days. Can you tell us a little? Do you want to tell us a little bit about this monologue that you did so brilliantly? Yeah.
So I was thinking about how with the quarantine we've all lost our freedom in a way, and
I think I had the virus, so I remember the physical feeling of not being able to breathe. So I wanted to include that comparison between what the virus causes you, but also how you feel when you lack freedom because you have a very controlling partner or abusive even, and having to spend 24 hours with them locked in must be horrible. Yeah, I have experienced abuse in the past, but I never had to spend 24 hours with my ex-partners or so yeah, I guess I wanted to combine the physical feeling of the virus with the feeling of the quarantine, with the feeling of being trapped in a toxic relationship.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much for sharing this with us. I think one of the most important things about Sheroes is that Sheroes is a space for artists, for the public, for women to feel safe and express their feeling and their fears and their struggles and not to be judged. And I think that is fantastic. Thank you very much, Susanna, for sharing this with us. We've got other artworks about the same thing, the same theme of violence against women and girls, especially when it comes to children as well. It's not just that women are abused. Some of the victims are children as well, and they are put in a very vulnerable situation, especially right now that there is not a school available where they can be taken care of, you know, the needs, and this is very silenced because they cannot say anything. So we have this our work by Cecilia Galeriani that's not here with us, and we have Mask 19 by Junsuk Chi. Junsuk, I saw you around. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Do you want to say something about I mean, you're not forced. I know that I didn't give you any heads up to talk about your artwork. This is very informal meeting. So do you want to say something about what was your inspiration for creating this? Your artwork, like the rest of your artwork, is amazing. I really like it. And I think it goes along with our ethos and along the work we do at Lawn Arts. And I found your projects, all of them, very interesting. And this one, it goes very well what we want to represent. Do you want to say something about it, or?
Yeah, maybe briefly. Thanks,
Yeah.
Maria, anyway. Mask 19 is the secret code that has been used in France. So if you are domestic violence victim, and you need help,
yeah,
when you go to the pharmacy and if you ask for Mask 19, it's kind of signal, I really need help.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I put this title, because I think it's such a nice idea to you know, utilize everyday place as a kind of a vigilant point of contact. And so my work is essentially sound work. The image used in this exhibition is kind of quilt patch I made as a kind of accompaniment. And the sound piece is quite simple and straightforward. I tried to kind of make a kind of satirical twist out of Boris Johnson's first official announcement about lockdown.
Yeah.
And the way I twisted is mixing that on the government official announcement with the songs have connotation with the domestic violence. So if you listen to it, it's kind of it's not funny, but it's kind of sour funny. Like
yeah.
How this message is revealing lockdown is not really level playing field, and especially for the perspective of domestic violence victims. So yeah, hope you listen to and enjoy it.
Of course, it's very interesting, and I think it's very creative the way you presented the whole thing. So indeed, many countries have put measures like as the one you mentioned, last 19 in France, for women to ask for help. And I think is very important that communities and society put in place some of these techniques. I mean, it's very sad at the same time, but yeah. Also, in this page, there is, well, in this page, in all this page, we have created this button for women's support. So in case women that visit our website, they need any kind of help, or like there are loads of organizations that they can go to. Among the audience, we have someone that from this organization we admire very much. Her name is Catherine Himwood. She works towards help women and help get funding, government funding for women to be safe. Catherine, hello.
Hello. Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is amazing.
Thank you to you for being with us. I was wondering if you would like to say something. I mean, you have so many things that you can say, but if you would like to talk about your experience working towards getting this emergency funding for women, or you want to say something, mention something about your work or situation of women right now?
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. Yeah, I'd love to. And I still find it so shocking when you look at the statistics, like the ones that you put up about violence against women and girls that's happening during lockdown. I mean, already 1 in 5 women will be the victim of sexual violence throughout their lives, and 1 in 3 women will have some kind of experience of domestic abuse throughout their lives, which is just extraordinary and utterly disgraceful. But unfortunately, lockdown has driven a lot of these crimes, or exacerbated a lot of these crimes, and driven a lot of crimes against children, as you had talked about, underground even more. I mean, one of the statistics you don't have up, but I know to be true, is that the number of women and children murdered by their partners this year in England and Wales is already at the same level of the number of women and children that were murdered by their partners in the whole of 2019. So the pandemic has really brought to the fore some of society's crimes that are way too hidden and way too undervalued, under-discussed rather, than undervalued as well. So yeah, I've spent the last couple of weeks or months trying to secure extra funding for organisations that support women and children and men. There are some men who experience sexual violence and domestic abuse as well, but overwhelmingly women and girls and young boys too. For organisations to be able to deal with the increase in demand that they're facing during the pandemic. And so I've gone through a huge amount of data in the last few weeks to secure that funding, and it is absolutely shocking. I've worked really closely with Refuge, and you put up some statistics about the number of calls that they've had to their national helpline. And I think the statistics have gone up even more so in the past few weeks. They have found, as I understand it, that as lockdown has been eased, a lot of people who haven't been able to have any space at all to access support have started to be able to, in some limited way, maybe reach out and access help. Some of the other interesting things that we've heard from organisations is that a lot of family and friends have been calling support lines and saying, actually, I'm really worried about my sister, or my friend or my daughter, I think they might be in an abusive relationship. And a lot of organisations have also said that this time has given people to think about the fact that either they've been abused in the past or they're currently in a situation that constitutes abuse. And a lot of the things that I have heard, so the other thing I've done is I arranged a summit that the government held on Thursday on what we called hidden crimes, and that was domestic abuse and sexual violence against women and girls. And so I spent 5 hours with experts looking at what the trends are in relation to hidden crimes during the pandemic and what things we might be able to do to try to address some of the things that we're seeing. And I don't think that there are many things that we've come up with that are effective, but one of the things that was really highlighted by everyone was that we need more awareness raising. And so the work that you're doing to highlight these issues, I think, is incredibly important, because some of the organisations said, for example, when the Home Secretary appeared with the National Domestic Abuse helpline number at the bottom of the Saturday briefing 2 weeks in a row, I think the calls to the helpline went up 1,000%. And there's another campaign that had been launched around what is sexual violence and what constitutes sexual abuse. And again, support services said that they had seen more people start to access them and say, I think I've got a problem here. So to me, awareness raising is one part of a very complex web of things that we need to do as a society to try to shine a light on these kinds of crimes. So I'm really just so blown away by all of the artwork that's gone on here. But what you're doing at Sheroes and Lana is so important, and I wanted to say thank you and pay tribute to all of you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. I think you mentioned something that is very important. One is the shame, and the shame that is put on victims of sexual abuse, and the shame of domestic abuse as well, because it's across all classes, all backgrounds, and it can happen in many ways. And I think that shame, that we need to get over it, and we need to show that it's okay to share, that it's safe to share. And so that's why from Sheroes, especially from this project, we thank so much the artists, women artists, that sharing their stories to the rest, because we found out if women hear these stories, they will feel that they found their tribe, and they found a safe space to share with the rest. So I think it's very important. But thank you very much for your work. I think to have women representing other women is very key, and is very important, and it leads to change, and it leads to success as well. So what else do I have? I think we can go to another thing, and I'm gonna stop talking because it's been too long. So I'm gonna pass the word to my colleague Bisila, the other director of Lunart. Hello, Bisila.
Hello. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen now. I hope you all can see my screen now. So I'm gonna go through the next couple other themes that we have for the exhibition, and I think this one ties in really well with the one we were just talking about. And also, again, thanks so much, Catherine, for sharing the amazing work that you do, because the truth is that there's so many people who feel generally, and also even more so in moments of crisis like now, that the government has forgotten about them. And in the UK in particular, we've seen how they've been developing all these emergency plans and all their policies, where first it was just the corporations and the companies, and then the rest of us were like, well, what about me? Like it happened to to freelancers. It happened to all the women that, like as Susanna was saying, were stuck at home. So for them, the stay-home motto was putting them even in more danger. And so in society in general, there's so many people for whom there's no policies, that they don't represent it, that policies that don't protect them. And the sad truth is that women are disproportionately among these people. And so I think we're just commenting here, but it's also great to see and to hear, Catherine, that there's people in positions of power who care, because it's so easy also to feel in despair and think that nobody cares about us, basically. So this theme is just a homage, for everybody. We wanted to pay tribute to all those people for whom there's no policies or who tend to be forgotten by the government. So we have one artist here that is not with us today. Clara Estor, she's a German illustrator who exhibited with us already in 2018, and what she has depicted amazingly in a series of 4 illustrations is the situation of sex workers during the shutdown, during the lockdown, and how even it's a very clear example of how the government tends to have really good ideas. So in this case, it's let's close brothels because we need to stop the spread of the virus, but then they don't realize that by doing so, or any other things for that matter, they are putting a lot of people at risk as a consequence. So in this case, women that work and live in brothels are now without a job, in the streets, at risk, and also it gets even more complicated from what she explains, that you can read later with more time, is that many of these sex workers actually are migrants. They might not have documents, they might be illegal, so it gets even more complicated. So you have seen, I think they were scrolling by as I was talking, but you can see there's 4, so it's a bit like a tale, so you can look at it with more detail later. And then the next topic, or the next theme, is ecofeminist and anti-capitalist answers. And this one, we wanted to kind of have a space for positive thinking when it comes to the future. Because what we realize, I hope everybody has realized in society, is that COVID and the crisis has made it very obvious that the system as it is now is not supporting everybody. So we've seen that the priority for governments in capitalist and especially neoliberal societies or governments or systems is the money, and then people are just at the bottom of the list. So now it's very clear that this is not sustainable, it needs to be changed. And what has been really amazing, I find, during the crisis is that there's a lot of organizations around the world, like feminist organizations, that have been coming up with alternative policies. So for instance, there's the Feminist Alliance for Rights that collected hundreds of signatures for individuals and organizations everywhere, and then they came up with a policy, and then they brought it to the UN and to local governments and governments everywhere. Also, for instance, the Women Badges group in the UK, they just released last week a new feminist Green Deal. So basically, we've been made to believe that there's nothing else than capitalism, but the truth is that there's options, and for instance, ecofeminism, that is something that us as an organization we've been getting very interested in. It could be great. It could, because what they aim for is to bring life at the core instead of capital, instead of money. So this is just a space for us to think if actually there's something positive from this is not showing, from the crisis, and if there is an answer in feminist policies. So we have 3 artists in this section. The first one is Alison, who I know is there. So Alison, if you wanna talk about your artwork yourself, you can unmute and then say hi. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I think with my artwork, it's important to think about what we're doing with our minds, because we are locked up. We are getting forced to think and to feel and to really be with ourselves and our mind, our thoughts. I think it's very important that we stay positive and that we practice, positive thinking, and that we make sure we keep our negative emotions in control. Of course, I mean, we're allowed to feel all these things. But I think with don't panic, I mean, try to make the most out of it. Keep creating like what we're doing, and also most importantly, let's keep supporting each other, keep supporting other artists, other females, reach out to them and maybe encourage them to keep creating or do what they love, what they maybe other hobbies. Another thing I maybe wanted to say is that there was obviously a shortage of face masks. Now, with that being said, something we definitely don't have a shortage of is plastic wastes currently. So that's why I used plastic waste in this mask to also make a connection to while we're in lockdown, maybe let's try to use this extra time on what can we do to recycle, what can we really do to save the planet, the climate change, what are we doing that we can change personally, and what can we do as a community to fight against that.
Thanks. I think also like linking it to more political side of this is that something that everybody has, or we've been realizing as the COVID spread or advanced, is the importance of community. So it's really great that you are like, and this is what we're trying to do here as well. Like, I think community should be crucial, should be very important for all of us to support each other and to make everyone stronger. And then when it comes to artists, that we will talk also later about artists in times of crisis, it's just really, really crucial that we all get together, which is what we're trying to do here. So thanks, Alison.
Thank you.
The next one is not here, Sam. So Sam is an American artist, and what she does is that she kind of like combines images of destruction, as she calls it, and then portrayals of the virtues of the kind of like the virtues that have been born from the American dream. So in her artwork that is called 025, you can see that we've got like the picture of a woman like representing the 50s in America. So I guess the post Second World War hype, house in the suburbs car, etc. And then she confronts it with the reality that we are living now, that she very brilliantly writes. Society went from sanitizer to insanity overnight. Now plastic gloves and face masks are the norm. So this is how it works. And when I was reading her statement, I just found it was very strong, very beautifully written, like even like poetic. So since we're talking about answers, or we're kind of like criticizing the system as it is, I just wanted to read it aloud. And then I invite you really to go through it, because it's just really, really well written. And so she says, globalization has moved forward unevenly, and no one can say where this new frontier is leading us. As the natural world is liquidated and substituted with an artificial one, the social landscape becomes increasingly fractured and alienated. No longer in focus, all grand narratives dissipate in the space of post-history as technological dependency diminishes the tangibility of our experiences. The medium has swallowed the message. Our time is marked by mass extinction, diminishing resources, global pandemic, and climate change. As devices of the first world burden the third, the skeletons of all factories serve as caveat of growing inequality. I think it's so super powerful. And then when I read it the first time, I just wanted to go out and just demonstrate. So I really invite you to spend some time reading about her and her work. And next one is Touchscreen, Touch Me by Mali, who is here. So Mali, hello. I want to ask you, Mali, your video is 2 minutes. Would you like us to watch the video and then you talk about it? Do you want to talk about it and then we watch the video? What would you like to do?
I don't mind talking about it first, get it out the way.
Yeah, do it, go for it.
I guess, I have a very retrospective look on this piece now, and I really love it. I made this piece before lockdown, and kind of looked at rebuilding my identity, rebuilding who I was. As all these stories start, I had just gone through a terrible breakup and life was up in the air, and then this happened. And with all of our connectivity moving online, I was really starting to think about, you know, what are we showing online? Who are we presenting ourselves as? And then in a really strange twist, how do you find love in lockdown? So I kind of reimagined myself as this AI that had been the perfect version of myself for whatever these different avenues of online were wanting me to be. And I had a lot of fun with it because I got to be a bit absurd and really personal, and just got to have fun with kind of what a computer would try to make sense of human emotions. And for me, this piece is still a work in progress. I'm still working on it. I'm still changing it. And I think ultimately what's really interesting now in the lockdown is, you know, all we have, unless you have housemates or you're living with kind of friends and family, all we have is online, and how we view each other online, and just try to have that really personal connection when it's difficult to, and what kind of connections will come out of this online time as well.
And then I think you are even taking it a step further. So you want to create like the version of you, no? You are working with coding, or what is it?
Yeah, so I have a friend of mine who's helping me code almost like a text-to-speech program that I'm building in my own voice. So I'm recording all the kind of alphabet and different sounds, so that myself will be completely out of my control, and I will say whatever people want, and that to me is so fun and terrifying. And I think it's a bit of a fun way to kind of take something that, you know, having your voice taken away from you, and whatever that may be, is terrifying. But I quite like to look at things with a little bit of a sense of humor and a little bit of lightness to them. So it's in the works, and I'm very excited about it.
Cool. I am gonna put the video on now. Thanks, Molly. Tell me if you can hear it properly.
Picturing love, pixelated to the touch, and yet privates, privileged access to everyone else willing to join my patronage, paying for screen time and megabyte downloads. I'll send you my Amazon wishlist. Honey, I'm having a thought. BBY's bathwater. Call now. For only $9.99 a bottle, 100% pure steeped girl. I'm starting up a new NSFW ASMR channel for sticky fingers in 23-second video clips. Send me a DM for 18+ verification. Selling my dirty talk by the character, including spaces. Send me a request on Fiverr and my filthy unclean, whore harlot, mouth hole. Will say anything you want. I just won't say that. You know what I mean. Let's be real. I'm a new kind of woman. I'm seeing you, and 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 I'm out of touch but feel so tactile. I'm supernatural, thriving in the realm between touch screen and touch me. I'm making my own ghost stories. The hag, the witch, good old Baba Yaga has got nothing on me. Phasing in, phasing out, ghostly. Subtlety isn't needed, is it? Step right, back up, left. I'm tiptoeing across my own personal dance floor, making shapes and drawing conclusions from your online aesthetics. It's an awkward, disjointed bump and grind until I get through the workday and leave you on red. Oh sorry, where was I? Your back is turned and the tops of your shoulder are backlit. Scrolling away. Did you ever notice that? I can only process you now as text. Seen at 2:46 a.m. I'd still want to kiss you sober. Come down. We can figure something out. Come crawling back, baby. Sweetheart, you took a wrong left in the fork in the road and I'm the one that got away. Did you not see the signs for the cliff? Mama, creator, master, always told me if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. I think I have a fault in my wiring, or just wired the wrong way. Sorry mama, I'm far too busy. Could you just go fuck yourself?
Thanks, Molly. Now
Thank you.
we will, I think it's back to Maria, isn't it? For Invisible Women. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay. So yes, Invisible Women is another theme. So Invisible Women, we have to start saying that women have been somehow invisible. Their achievements, they've been invisible, and their wishes, they've been invisible, as well as their sexual desires, etc., etc. But when it comes to women, like for example, when it comes to intersectionality, this amplifies everything, right? So one of our artists, Carly, talks about disability and invisibility as well. So I just want to introduce you to Carly. Carly, hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Would you like to say something about your artwork, the inspiration, and how you found the link between this exhibition in Sheroes in Quarantine and your beautiful artwork?
Yeah, so I have a hidden disability that's like chronic pain based, and I really like to express that in my artwork. And kind of this whole quarantine kind of adds to that experience, especially like a lot of my friends have really connected to this piece of laying down and kind of the mental pain that like comes along with it. And I think also my use of fabric work really connects to women. And my mom and grandma actually kind of passed that down to me. So I think that's a good little thing.
Yeah. It's great. It's great. It's great. And what do you think about about COVID and the crisis and disability? What are your views around it? Do you think that you like disabled people have been left behind somehow, and how? And what type of things would you like to have? What type of support would you need?
Those are really good questions. And I think there's some things that I'm still kind of thinking about and figuring out. I think that disabled people kind of have always really been left out of things. And like just now, I feel like we're starting to maybe see them a little bit more, but I think whether you can see the disability or not, they've kind of always been kind of left out of things. What were your other questions?
Oh, the question was about what type of support, because I think one of the things with this crisis is so unique, and we don't have any precedents before, and problems, new problems are arising in these situations, and how, what type of things, what type of support do you think people with any disability would like to have in these type of situations?
I think that right now is kind of a scary time for a lot of people, because I think that disabled people can sometimes be more easily affected. Like I'm kind of scared to go out and, you know, what happens if I get it? What will happen to my body? So I think more research on that part, like, I don't know.
Well, yeah,
it's hard to say. It's hard to say exactly the support.
I was wondering as well, like maybe like to create like more networks for people with disabilities or with fears or struggles to go out to confront this new life that we don't know what it's gonna look like to feel more confident and to feel more supported. In any case, it is very important. Thank you for sharing your experience, for sharing your beautiful artwork. We fell in love with it, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's amazing. We've got another type of invisibility. I was wondering if Camila is around. Is Camila, honey, around?
Hi.
Oh, hello. Hello. I didn't see you. I didn't know. I'm so glad. Hello, Camila. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I'm just going to say my connection's a little unstable.
Okay. Okay.
Just if I freeze or anything, I'll let you know now.
Okay, no problem, no problem. It was a difficult. I mean, Camila's work is this beautiful piece. It's a broomstick with hair, and it's representing many things. Very intriguing. We put it in this category, even though sometimes we thought that it would have its own category because it talks about domestic work, which is quite invisible. All the work that is not being paid or recognized or valued in our society, domestic work that many mothers or women carry on, and it's given for granted that they should like do it because it's their role in society. So it involves this invisibility, and also I think it's very powerful because you talk about witches, and this is very intriguing, and witches related to the household and to all these objects that are linked to women. Would you like to talk a little bit? We've written here a paragraph about witches and witchcraft, and then your artwork explain your blurb explained very beautifully about this. But would you like to introduce us more?
Yeah, sure, of course. So yeah, I guess, of course, looking at domestic labor was kind of one part of the work that was very important, and being confined in the home right now. And I think a lot of the time with my work, I actually look at kind of historical instances and try to bring them back into the contemporary, which I think this work is kind of no exception, looking at witches who, of course, were kind of demonized over the body, and were these kind of women who were confined that were quite rebellious and were sort of shamed or very kind of violently exiled for these reasons. And hair also comes into the piece, and I think it's quite an important material that often reappears in my work. It has all these very loaded associations in it of feminine desire and kind of women who are exiled for sins, and the temptress with long flowing locks. And I think, yeah, just being confined in the home right now has made me think a lot about sort of domestic rituals and how they've appeared in history, and how women are kind of treated for them now, or not given kind of respect for them in various ways. And yeah, also, I think a part of the work and looking at women in confinement kind of is embedded in my own cultural identity of being an Irish woman. And Irish has quite a long and difficult history of policing women's sexuality, in particular kind of the Catholic conservative nature of Ireland has confined women in institutions and kind of given them very unfair treatment, and hair was an important part of that, because when women were brought into domestic workhouses in Ireland, their heads would actually be shaved before they entered. So it has quite a rich significance over a lot of different kind of layers, and yeah.
Oh wow, that is very interesting. I mean, it's very interesting. It's very intriguing, and as well, we've seen like some witches in general is they were quite invisible because they didn't want to to speak about their power or their freedom. I think witches is much related to freedom, to the freedom that women can have without men. And I think yes, it's just a lot of this invisible power that women always had. And when it comes visible, then is when they are persecuted. So in so many ways. Thank you, Camila. Your artwork is stunning and fantastic. And you won an award, right, for this artwork?
Oh, runner-up award. Runner-up award, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so let's go to the last category. Is artists and diaries. Gisela, would you like to introduce this one?
Yep. Let's stop sharing. Okay, so the last, let me find my way. The last theme that we have, sorry, my laptop is being a bit funny, is called Artist Diaries. And one of the questions that we had when we started the project was actually to like, how is the crisis affecting artists? Because, well, most of us are here in the room, we are artists, and we know that our lives are already vulnerable or tend to be already vulnerable because either we are juggling lots of different jobs because it's very difficult, even though not impossible, to live off our own practice. So we tend to have different part-time jobs or 0-hour contracts or be freelancers. So it's already very unstable. And then if we add on top of it kids or like any caring responsibilities, it's even harder. So we just wonder how the crisis was affecting artists, if either it was actually kind of like helping them cope with it, and also like the creativity have been boosted by it, or if in the contrary, if it had been they had stopped and they couldn't do whatever they knew how to do best. So we have two artists here. I believe none of them are in the call, but if you are and I've missed you, just say it. So the first one is Hannah Do Shmulik, who's from Bosnia, and so she's made a series of paintings, and they are called Spring Dance. And the one that she submitted for Sheroes is called Spring Shero in Relaxation. So what she does is reflects about the idea of relaxing as in like a state of mind where we are kind of like coping or overcoming anxiety and fear and anger and all these many different feelings that may be triggered by the crisis. And so she just invites us by this amazing colorful piece to prioritize our own self, our own mental health, and to relax. So this is the first one, which is just really, really stunning. And then the last one is called Barca Vela, which in English it will translate into sailing boat. And it's a duo. It's actually two artists from Italy. And so what they've done through print, like photography for print, is that they reflected about how commonplace objects of rituals that before we wouldn't give any attention to, the fact that we are all in lockdown and we are all doing them at the same time is kind of like uniting us all around the world. And then also they were sending pictures to each other, so that was kind of like a way for them to both keep practicing, keep taking photographs, and then also to stay connected. So there's many, I don't know exactly how many individual pieces there are, and then they all come together in one piece. So I invite you to take some time to scroll through all the images so that you can see them all. And that is it when it comes to the topics, the 6 topics that you can, when you navigate through the website, you can see them all at the bottom. And then we have one more artist who I'm gonna get to from the homepage, so last year, I think it was last year, yes, when for Sheroes Revoluciones, we started doing a Sheroes prize that is sponsored by Great Art, which is a materials shop, like art material shop here in London, although they are German, so they have like different shops in London. And what we've been doing is like gather different judges, and then they will pick one artist, and we will give them money they can spend on art materials. So the winner of this year's Sheroes prize, she's a shame it's not stolen, but because it's a really cool animation. So the winner is called Marga Rebolledo, who, I'm gonna just go from here, is in the call I Know. So Marga do you wanna introduce us to your work?
Hello. Well, I now realize there's a whole section for that.
Well, you won.
First of all, thank you for that. I mean, it's all of the works are amazing, and I have to say that to say the least, I was kind of very surprised when I got the message. But so the work comes from, I mean, being in this period of quarantine, like, you know, at the beginning, a lot of things that the media was highlighting was like a lot of people that were at home didn't know what to do with their time, or suddenly weren't sure where, like, literally how to fill their time, or how to address certain things like income, or whether they were going to get paid, but there was a lot of talk about time free. And I thought, suddenly I had time free. I was like, what can I do with this? What kind of issues can I address using illustration? And everything seemed too overwhelming. I was like constantly feeling very anxious about my income, very anxious about what's going on with so many of the issues that have been talked about during, and have been reflected in the exhibition. And at some point I was like, you know what? I'm just going to talk about what's very close to me, which is literally what's going on with my life right now. Because I had all these plans about what was going to be my year, and suddenly they were all gone. And I was like, okay, well, I at least have a roof and I have like enough money in my savings, but it still sort of shook me and left me a little bit wondering, like, I think there's a saying in English of like, I don't know if it's a cat or a rabbit, like startled by the lights or something like that. But basically when you're just not sure where things are going. So the first one that I did was, I was just like, I'm just going to reflect about how lost I am, and the fact that, okay, I've been only a freelancer for less than a year. Suddenly there's all this information about what support there is for freelancers. I'm not really qualified. Like, all this information was really confusing on whether you would get that support or not. When will it be? Will it be in June, July, or when? Probably a lot of people are not going to have enough savings to last until then. And what do you do? Can I apply for universal credit? Shall I call? And then I haven't heard from them in a week. So there's follow-up stories, and two of them are around like the trials and tribulations of having to access job seekers allowance and feeling like, oh my gosh, it has been 10 years and I thought I had progress in my life. And suddenly I'm back to job seekers allowance.
And it's a nightmare to apply.
So it was bad, but also every time I did one of those illustrations, because there's 4 stories there and it's a kind of ongoing project. But every time I did one of those, I was like, okay, so I want to see what things I can reflect and look back and maybe laugh about it, because if you take some distance, they can be funny. But also understanding, and I did that every time that I published one of those stories, I explained, like, I feel very lucky that this is my situation, because it forces you to reflect that you're in that position, and that position is crap, and it can be very much of a sitcom sort of focus, and it's important to highlight it, and it's important to say that a lot of people are very lost, but also I am in that very privileged situation in which I can laugh about it. And I know of so many people that don't necessarily find that that's something that they can do that easily, because the gravity of their situation is completely different. But I also felt like it's very hard anyway, no matter what you're going through. It's going to be very hard. So it's also okay to take a break and laugh a little bit and relax and focus on those things that just that I don't know, ground you a little bit. And for me, doing these diaries were my grounding exercise, because I know that I'm not the only one here that during this period has been doing a lot of either volunteering or checking a lot on their friends or family, or just being worried about what's going on, or knowing that if things are bad here, like I'm from Chile, if things are bad here, they are like triply, or I can't even imagine how it's going on in places where this infrastructure is not around. So I thought, you know, that's all very overwhelming. I need to remind myself that I'm not going to do anyone any favors if I'm just anxious all the time. Have a little break, have a little laugh, try to take a step back and just reflect on those things that just seem incredibly maddening, but from a distance can be a bit funny.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know if you want to delve into any of them, or.
So there's 4 stories, and they are in 2 colors. 2 of them are in red. Mm-hmm. The red ones are meant to be cheerier. I don't know. And then one of the blue ones is kind of stressful, and the other one is just because it's outdoors and there is not that much red outdoors. If the sky is red, I would be worried. And basically 2 of them are on the frustration around the whole sort of job seekers allowance and what it takes to get it, and also the fact that right now the system is so overwhelmed that they just can't cope with anyone, and people are left waiting. Like I heard on the television that somebody was left waiting for like 13 hours, and then they missed their appointment on the phone because they fell asleep on the phone. And then another is about just how to try to keep your mental health together and your act together when suddenly you're not allowed to go out of the house more than once a day. And it features my partner. And funnily enough, this quarantine time was the first time in maybe since September that I had spent quality time with my partner. And I'm lucky that I am with a partner of my choice that is somebody that I get on very well with. But I was like, actually, during all this time, between the fact that I've been traveling and you've been working like remotely, we really haven't spent time together. So it was also part of doing this was treasuring those moments in which that I thought were interesting, and we observed things that were funny, or we tried to keep ourselves sane. But I feel like a lot of people may have found that suddenly between all of these tragedies, there were some things that they realized they missed in like the times pre-COVID, and maybe that's something that we should retain after this period. But yeah, this is not to say that what's going on right now is going to have tremendous implications, and there's going to be all sorts of trauma that we're going to have to face in the future because of so many different things that have happened during this period, from loss of life to the situations very like rightly highlight around homes not being the safest place for everyone.
Yeah, there was an article on Galdem, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, that the title was, "I'm actually enjoying lockdown. Have I lost my mind, or do I have any problems?" So.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people are now, when the announcement from the government was made that people needed to go back to work, I mean, a lot of people weren't able ever to not go to work to begin with. But then those that had that possibility of like staying at home suddenly were like, I know of people that are like, why? First of all, it's not safe. And second, actually, is it necessary? Is it needed? Can we all have just an income and work less hours? Because how much good is it bringing, really? We've seen who is more necessary. Maybe we need more people working on those sectors. But like, keep running the economy is not necessarily going to help my well-being, because my well-being is being sacrificed for the bigger good of the economy. So I don't know. I think there's a space for all sorts of discussions, and it's important. I hope that we will pick on those. But yeah, my drawings don't necessarily go that deep, but maybe you can pick up on certain details or certain things, and and it could lead to other conversations or reflections.
Well, what is certain is that, and this is a bit of a wrap up as well, is that the crisis has brought up so many things, be it political, be it about the way we live our lives, be it how we relate to other people, and hopefully, I mean, something good will come out of this, because it's questioning a lot of essential things from our lives in so many levels. So we shall see. Thank you, Mara. And so this is all when it comes to the artwork. But then the very last thing, and is that it is the first time that we have received so many written artworks, let's call them, like be it poems or thoughts or articles. So we decided to just dedicate a section for it. So we've compiled all the written pieces that were submitted on what we've called our Sheroes in Quarantine writing corner. So here you can scroll through them, there's 6, and you can read them all. And so what we've done also is we've linked up each one with the artwork that we thought worked really well or was very related to. And I believe that Jasso is there. I think also Aria Roy are there. So if you want to also just say hi, say something, and if there's any of the other as well. Hi, Aria.
Hi.
Anything you want to say about your artwork about women leaders?
Yeah, my work was about female politicians and how I studied some examples of Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand and the leaders of many Scandinavian countries, and how their forms of leadership during this crisis is actually proving beneficial for their populations, and how this is further proof and evidence that the merit of aspiring female politicians should be recognized, and how they should be elected even more in order to give them equal opportunity in politics and governance.
Thanks. Thank you. And then Jazz, I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. Jasso, are you there? I think you are.
I'm not sure Jazz is. No, sorry. Jazz, actually, we didn't know until yesterday when I invited her. I was like, oh, we're both there. She said that she's got a commitment. And I was like, oh my God, you're also there. She said that she had to run. So she sent a message to...
Cool. Well, thanks, Mara. I would have been like calling for her, like, yes. Okay, so one thing before I pass back to Maria in case she wants to add anything else, or then we can open the conversation in case anyone has any particular questions to any of the artists, just to let you know that most of the artworks are actually for sale. So we've created a shop that you can visit in order to see the artworks that are for sale in case you're interested in any of them. Because as we, like you can see from the title, we strongly believe that a way of supporting the community also is supporting artists. We've seen how artists like we're being affected by the crisis. So if you do have the means and then you do love any of the artworks, just please definitely we'll appreciate it if you buy it, because that's how we foster community and that's how actually we can all survive this crisis. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and then Maria, is there anything you would like to add? I'll unmute you.
Yeah, yeah. I want to, I think you forgot to invite Lucy Arden to speak. She is with us. Yeah.
Hi, Lucy. Okay. Yeah. I'll unmute you.
Hello. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi there. Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, Lucy.
It's okay, don't worry. I might be interrupted by my this little one here.
Hello. Hi.
You like? Oh, sorry. Yeah, and there might be a bit of noise. He likes to join me on Zoom meetings. So, yeah, my piece was about isolation in general and just kind of. I never have any peace. He's just said. Yeah, so it was just about all the emotions, I suppose, flying around at the beginning of isolation and how we were going to sort of, the epidemic and all those sort of worries really that we probably were all feeling really. That's it.
Okay.
You just say bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Anyways, are we leaving someone behind? An artist that wants to say something, or a writer? Yeah? No? No? Okay. So as Gisela was saying, all the artworks are for sale. We are not a gallery or anything like that. We are an arts organization, and our only aim is to represent women artists and to give them the visibility in our society, the visibility that they deserved from the beginning of the history of art. So this is one of our fights. So yeah, and all the artworks are for sale. Lona takes the 20% of the artworks in order to contribute to the project and to keep going. So yeah, anyways, we have, you know, a website as well. For every theme, you have a selection of articles that you can check that is related to that theme. Articles like from different sources that you can check. And just saying that this is this project is gonna last. Is aimed to last. Is aimed to grow within the time. We aim to give visibility to more stories. We are aware that we left behind many women, many situations, many histories. So we'll try to keep this going. And from next week, we are going to start promoting the exhibition all over the place. So in the future, we might hold like a more formal talk and a series of talks, and we might invite the artists to talk about their artworks and so on. Yeah, and I just want to say like a few thanks to the artists again, because I think I mean we cannot thank them enough for sharing their stories with us, for joining the movement as well, and for dedicating their time, their creativity to give visibility to themes that represent women across the world. And it's so important the work of all these artists, that instead of like doing something else to please a public that is out there that consume art, are dedicating their artwork to pass the message, to say something that will help people. We live in a visual culture, and it's very important that our art like guide us towards you know, some freedom and some causes and some important acts. So this is one thing. And another thing, thank you from the bottom of our hearts to Lona team, because this is an organization that doesn't have any funding, does have 10 people working full time, and then after the work at 6 they start doing the website. Especially thank you to Chloe, because she works so hard by building this online exhibition and then having like madness at her work. And all these women that help us in Lona Art and that are part of Lona Art are so special because they are moved by, you know, by feelings, by the feeling of the possibility of change, and this is why it is important to us. Anyways, thank you for joining. Do we have something else to say, Bisila?
Yes, because also we have a section that it hasn't been added yet, but it's coming soon in the next couple of weeks, with all the artists that have been part of previous exhibitions, previous Sheroes events, and submitted again, because we really believe, like, one thing that we really strive for with Leonard and with Sheroes is to build a really strong community of artists. So there's artists that applied, that want to keep wanting to work with us, which for us is really, really important. So we decided to create a section just for them. Thumbs up, Abigail. And and we didn't have time or capacity to prepare that section for today, but this is the next step. So phase 2 of Sheroes in Quarantine will be the Sheroes community. So coming soon, there will be more artists.
And if you have like more women artists that you would like to put forward, please send that to us, because I think it's very important to carry on with this mission and to find a space. And now it's an online space, so it is important for us. It's very important to create space for artists to share their artworks, and then for them not to feel the pressure that they are competing or with other artists. We're just working together to pass the message, and that is what is great about Sheroes, about lawn art in general. Anyways, thank you very much. And do you have any questions or something to say? No? Nobody? Do you have a glass of wine or something?
I was wondering if the videos, if we can still submit that if we haven't done it already.
Yes, please, Alison. Yeah. Send them.
Thank you. As you can see, I have my 3-year-old, so I've been really trying to find a time when there's daylight and he's not with, which is very hard. I'm hoping on tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah.
no
When you can. Thank you.
You're not going anywhere. Anyways, so let's have a toast for you all, and we really hope that after this crisis, women will be safer, and we'll keep up with the fight. So anyways, a toast for all of you. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're gonna end the meeting now. Thank you very much.
Bye,
everybody.
Oh, and thank you for the correction of like the rabbit on the headlights. Thanks.